Hello and welcome to Analysing Avatar, a podcast where we take a look at Avatar episode by episode. We are currently working our way through Korra. We are on the 4th season, and we are on the 5th episode, Enemy at the Gates.
Yep.
First of all, just in general, Chris, how you doing? We haven't spoken in a little while. There's a reason for that. We'll come to. But how's life?
I'll be honest with you, Dan. I'm concerned. You've indicated you've not been too well, and then there was a moment where it looked like we were going to forget to press record on the microphones. So I'm concerned by the combination of me at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
and you not ill. I'm worried about the ship and who's going to steer it down.
So basically I had a very, let's just say, intense week at work where, due to other sickness and issues, I worked 7 days in a row, and several of the shifts were like 12 plus hours.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was a lot. And I said, like, I can do this for a very short period of time. Like, I'll do a week burst of like covering for this, but then I have to stop. The money's great. Overtime money is good. And in Australia, if you work overtime, you actually get paid more as well per hour for the overtime to discourage companies from taking the piss. It's great. So I'm earning a lot doing it. And towards the end of the week, I said to Nadia, I've got 2 days off. I've just got to make it to those 2 days off. And I was like, oh, you're doing a podcast on the 2nd? I'm like, yeah, but it's a podcast. It's an hour of my life, an hour and a half of my life. It's fine. I'll have more than enough energy of that, because that's the 2nd of the 2 days. I'll have had a day of rest before that one too. No problem. 2 things I didn't factor. One, a lot of like housework and shit I needed to do built up in that time because I wasn't doing anything at home, because I was just, waking up, going to work, sleeping, eating around that. 2, I was eating very poorly because I didn't have any time to make decent food. So I was eating like the worst my diet may have ever been in my life for a sustained period of time. Like, really bad.
Let's get some details about that, Dan. What were you eating?
Oh, mate, just food from like horrible like hole in the walls that like served me like weird honey chicken that was way too gristly to have been legitimately chicken. Like, just like, like all sorts of stuff. Like, and like some of it was like, safe bets. We went to this pizza place called Sal's. At one point, I went and got a couple of slices of pizza at Sal's or whatever, for my lunch. But like, I was only getting short breaks. It was a whole thing. Very stressful. But I say stressful. It wasn't stressful. It was just tiring, and I wasn't eating well, and my body rejected all of those choices. Then I wasn't sleeping well because I was overtired. And then, actually, one of the things that happened during this time is Chris sent me an amazing voice note that I woke up to at like sort of 6 a.m. one morning. And I was like, I have not got the time to reply to this. But I was like, that's fine. We'll talk about that on the podcast. Not this one. We'll talk about it on Nothing But Static. That's coming up this week. For you listeners, it's already out. It's the Nothing But Static that came out around the 21st. If you want to know more about Waterloo Road, that's what it's related to. And I was like, I'll get back to that at some point. That didn't happen. I will push through. And then literally my last day, I was supposed to do an 8-hour shift. It then became a 12-hour shift, and I was like, it's fine, I can push through. And by hour 7, my throat started to hurt. And by hour 9, I was feeling lightheaded. By hour 10, I was runny-nosed and coughing. And by the time I left, I was but a puddle. It was not a good way to finish anything. So, day off number 1 was Dan bedridden, very ill, not well at all. I watched some movies, if that helps. Not really great, but I did do some. Finally watched Civil War, Alex Garland's Civil War. Watched Abigail. Wanted to see that for a while. Good time. Lots of resting though. And then today I had to try and catch up on all the shit I haven't done, like around the house. Like I had laundry piled up for days, like just tons of stuff to get done. And this podcast. So all of that to basically say, if I sound like shit and I'm exhausted and tired and saying weird things, that's why.
I think I speak for everyone, and I'd imagine Nadia when I say that you probably should have rested today as well, and not done the jobs or indeed this podcast.
Mate, but if I hadn't rested, if I'd have done nothing today, I wouldn't have any clothes to wear to work tomorrow. So I really did have to do some stuff today.
I don't think you should go to work tomorrow. I think you're too ill, but.
No, it's good. Look, I'm okay. I'm better today than I was yesterday. Yesterday was not I was not a human being. I was like a blob that was like just occasionally making noises, incoherent, like today I'm a lot better. So hence podcast time. So I just want to give everyone a heads up. If I say anything weird, there's a long story really to explain. Essentially, I'm not very well at the moment. I'm a little overtired. So yeah, fun times ahead. Let's talk about Enemy at the Gates, Chris. Oh yeah, sorry. Is that a satisfactory explanation, by the way, as to why I you sent me an amazing voice note and I did not get back to it?
No, that kind of shit doesn't worry me. And Jesus, you didn't need to explain that. God, I'm just I'm just grateful for you choosing to do the podcast. But if you feel too rough, just say, and we'll put this out on Patreon.
No, I'm good. I've made
20.
I made sure I've eaten. I've hydrated.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I just ran myself down to the point that like a normal cold or whatever, or flu, became like the death. You know what I mean? Like I think that's what happened. Like I feel like if my body had been rested enough to fight it off, I might have had the sniffles for a few days. But instead,
I just think consider not going into work then if you still feel rough tomorrow. Public announcement.
If the trajectory of recovery from yesterday to today continues, then I'll be fine tomorrow. I reckon I'll be on my feet again. I was on my feet enough today. I trundled downstairs to pick up a parcel. It's a 12-story building. I did use the lift, but even that was a journey.
Mentally, that's a journey.
It was a journey. I had to interact with another human being and use words. It was awful, Chris. It was truly awful. So it's just been me and the birds the last day or two. Like literally, like our bedroom window looks out onto the balcony. I've just been putting out seeds and then lying down in bed and watching the birds eat them. I'm like some weird psychopath from a movie.
Yeah, I mean, you were doing a fair amount of that when you were healthy, so
yeah,
I don't know if that's the goal.
I do enjoy feeding the birds. Still seeing our long-billed corellas. Anyone who's into birds, it's a really cool lot of bird. Google it if you don't know what they look like. They're really cool. I like them a lot. Some rainbow lorikeets. Yeah. Been seeing them too. They're good. I like them. A few miners. Australians hate miners. They say they're an introduced species. They came here. They pushed out the rest of the local wildlife. They ruined the habitat. They changed the way things work over here. And I'm staring at this white Australian guy. You're an introduced species. What the fuck are you talking about? You cannot be mad at the miner when what happened in this country happened in this country. Like, because you've just described what the English did. Anyway,
I enjoy usually what happens with this podcast is we'll do an hour and 15, and within that will be sort of some random tangents that take up about 5-10 minutes of the podcast. Yep. What it feels like we've done this week is forced ourselves into a position where we've done all the tangenting at once right up top. And now I have no choice but to be very, very on target for the rest. So welcome. Yeah,
sorry everyone. This is an Avatar podcast. 8 minutes in. Welcome.
So welcome everyone to Tangent Free. Korra 4.5.
I would like to think at this point we've earned enough. Like anyone who's still listening to us, we've earned enough credit with them. They know that at some point we will get back to Avatar.
Oh, I imagine anyone still listening also cares about your well-being and wanted to hear that. So,
I think that's a very sweet notion. I suspect that's not true. I think they were just like, Jesus, Dad, stop moaning. We all get sick sometimes, eh? That's true, and I'm sorry.
Talk about Julie, one of the highlights of the episode. Do you want to give an overview?
Let's do it. Let's do an overview. So for those who don't remember the plot, this is the episode in which Korra and the gang arrive at Zhaofu. I'm going to say Zhaofu with a hard Z sound instead of the sort of J sound that it's kind of written at. Zhaofu. They get there. It's all gone wrong. Kuvira's there with a big army. She's like, "Give it up," and the people inside are like, "No, thank you." And then that happens for about 20 minutes until eventually we set up for a potential battle next week. In the meantime, we have a separate plot where Bolin, Julie, and Varric all realize that Kuvira ain't right. That's basically the premise of the episode. Oh, we end on a big action sequence as they try to escape and fail. There you go. I did it. What did you think of the episode, Chris? Did being sick improve it? My description or make it worse?
Oh, Dan, it's so rare I pay attention to your description, so I can't judge.
No.
That's fine. It was fine. It was nice and concise. Don't worry about it.
Sorry, you were saying.
I think the mic. I'm hoping you laughed then, because your mic's still doing that thing.
I
where
did.
It cuts out if you laugh.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for
No,
listeners
fine.
who don't know, I've got a new headset that has an automated feature where if something too loud happens, to prevent me blowing out the ears of the people listening, as in Chris, not you, the listeners, but Chris on the way we're talking to each other, it means he doesn't always hear it when I laugh now, which gives him a nice eerie silence after a joke, which I'm very much reveling in. Carry on.
I enjoyed it. There was a lot. No, I'm going to say I really enjoyed it. Actually, yeah. I think there was a lot of plot advancing. There was a lot of humor. I'm glad certain things happened. Like all the Julie stuff was brilliant. I don't think she's. I rarely pop a theory in. I think she was just trying to preserve and save herself in that moment. I don't think she's gone over to the dark side. I think she's still on our team, on Team Avatar, as it were.
Do you think she's still loyal to Varric then?
I don't know if she's loyal to Varric, but I think she potentially. I really like the moment where the sappy romantic in me. I really liked the moment where they fell on each other and it looked like there was going to be some romance. I thought that was is that fun? He's her employer. No, I guess that's not fun. But I really loved her fighting for herself. I really loved her kicking ass in the robot suit, and yeah,
me too.
I don't think she's necessarily loyal to Varric. I just think she knows that Metalface is wrong. I can't remember her name. What's the name of the villain this year?
Metalface. Yeah, you got it right. Metalface. It's
it is Metalface,
Captain Metalface.
Captain
she's
Metalface.
there with what was it we used to call Zuki? Zuki Poos? Zuki Poos and Captain Metalface. It's Kuvira. Although I fear now we have dubbed her Metalface, even though she has no metal in her face whatsoever.
Kuvi Poos. I don't think she's necessarily like loyal to Varric. I think she just knows that Captain Metalface is wrong. So I really liked everything to do with her. I really liked Bolin coming to the realization. And I really liked the moment where Bolin and Varric together were like, she's crazy. So I really enjoyed that. I thought Korra trying to talk and not, doing everything via violence was good. I guess it isn't really even a criticism because it's not fully got to where it's going. But Asami and her dad, I guess, is the only plot that felt more like setup. Maybe It didn't feel overly. That didn't pull me in as much as the other plots. But I had a really good time with the other plots. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and I would say more than my usual shtick, which I did last week. Of it was good. It was nothing particularly amazing. But if I was just watching this series episode by episode, I'd be like, okay, fine, and I'd put on the next one, and it wouldn't be a big deal. I think this one was more than that. I think if I was watching this episode by episode, I'd have gone, I enjoyed that one. Let's watch the next one, Imaginary Friends, and then I'd have hit play.
I think that's the structure with a lot of serialized shows. I've noticed this where and this happened, I think, with season 3 of Korra. I think we had a bit more up and down with 1 and 2 because of the inconsistent writing, so it's hard for us to judge that. But I think when a really heavily serialized show nails it, that is the effect, even when it's nailing it, because usually, like, look at the most recent season of Fargo. I think it was the 5th season, the Juno Temple season of Fargo. The first few episodes were doing a lot of setup, and I wasn't 100% invested in all the characters yet, you know? But once they started paying off all that stuff they were setting up, episode 3, episode 4, I got heavily invested, and it went from being a good show that I was enjoying to being spectacular. And I think when you're doing serialized storytelling, it's very difficult to be spectacular in the first couple episodes when you are simply still in your first act. You know what I mean? Getting someone super invested on the first act of a story is not, like, easy. I think almost the best you can hope for is that it's still entertaining and enjoyable while they're sort of setting up the higher stakes stuff, the character arcs that you're going to become invested in as the season moves forward. So I think we've experienced that phenomenon on Korra twice now. I think last year was the same, where we were like, this is a really good setup. We got burnt with season 2. So we were trepidatious, but the more it went in, the more we got into it, because the more invested in the situation we became. I think that's absolutely what's happening here. It's the first few episodes did exactly what they needed to do, and the reason this is good is because the groundwork was already laid. My investment has been built up and earned over the 3 or 4 episodes that came before this one. So I 100% agree with you. And I just want to add that to sort of go a little bit further, explaining how that has happened and why that happens. And I think that happens a lot in serialized TV, like heavily serialized TV, when it really is just every episode is bleeding into the next. That is generally how I feel it always tends to go. And I guess it'd be the same with any movie I watched recently. Like the movie I watched yesterday, Civil War, right? The Alex Garland film. If you just showed me the first 20 minutes of that movie, I'd be like, okay, yeah, it's fine, I guess. You know, because that was the part where they were earning my investment. And then, you know, as the movie went in, I got a lot more into it. Good film. Not as spectacular as I hoped it would be. I think it was weirdly toothless in some places, but still a really good movie. If anyone is interested, I do recommend it. So yeah, I think you're exactly right. That is what's happening, and I'm glad to hear you feel that way as well, because I also felt this was like a ramping up of the stakes and what's going on. And did you feel like, because I did have one mild it's not a criticism of the episode, but I do have a potential criticism. Did I just get disconnected from Chris? Is he still there?
Yeah, no, I'm still here.
Oh, sorry, I heard a beep in my ear from the line. That was interesting.
It was me checking my volume was all the way down.
Oh, okay. It beeped for me, and I was like, what happened? Okay, no worries. So it's not a criticism of this episode, because this episode handled everything it handled brilliantly, in my opinion. But it is a potential question about the series. We did a lot of telling us why Kuvira is evil this week. Like, they pulled the trigger on the Kuvira is definitely a wrong-un this week. They talked about, like, essentially concentration camps. They talked about her taking places by force. They talked about the state places are left after she leaves them. There was like a re-education camp thing, which is the concentration camp type thing, which is just super dodgy. She's clearly authoritarian in a way. Like, her fascism is showing now in a really overt way, but we were told all this stuff exists. We didn't see any of it. Now, that is the experience of the characters who have been only seeing her good side deliberately. But I feel a little bit like, as a choice for a season, wouldn't it have been nice to have had an episode mixed in here somewhere where, like, maybe Mako or Asami, or maybe both of them, were like off somewhere else in the world discovering this stuff, so we, the audience, could see it, to believe it more, to feel it more, show don't tell sort of thing. Because I'm glad they pulled the trigger on that stuff, and that stuff really does push Kuvira into a fully villainous state now. Whereas before they were trying to play she's just doing politics side of it, you know, to create a debate between Mako and Bolin and keep that going. That question going. But how do you feel about it now? Do you think did you feel the absence of show in this episode?
No, because of the Varric scene. So, personally not, because of the scene where she, you know, puts metal round Varric's mouth and threatens to throw him off the train and insists that he still does his thing. So, no, I felt that they showed it in that moment. I agree that it would be nice to maybe see some of it from a, what she's been doing point of view. That would be nice, and kind of something for Marco to do, because obviously we've not really seen Marco for a couple of episodes. So the notion that he was, investigating further by sort of looking into that would have been interesting. Although he's stuck with the king, isn't he? Well, the other choice for the king.
I mean, I suppose you could
no,
do the thing
because
where
we got-
the king wants to see what's going on in the Earth Kingdom now, and that's how they discover maybe the education camps or something. Like, I just feel like...
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like those things are really horrific, and there's a lot of, like, when we leave, what happens then? The people are miserable. They do a lot of telling us about her effect on the wider world. You're right, they give us the moment where she herself behaves like a villain. She threatens Varric, and that is, I guess the quote-unquote moment she becomes, officially the villain. But the rest of the episode spends a lot of time telling us about the effects of her regime politically and how evil that has been and how much of a problem she has been as a leader. But we've never seen that. And it's whereas you look at last year when we were exploring the negatives of the Earth Kingdom as a structure. We had Marco and Bolin going into the lower rings and seeing how those people lived. And they were poor, and they didn't have fresh fruit to eat. They could only buy the rotten stuff. Like just a tiny moment like that last season really contextualized why Zahir was so determined. Why Zahir was somewhat not justified, but like correct in his observation that the kingdom system, the Queen in this case, wasn't working for the Earth Kingdom. There was this huge wealth disparity, and we got to witness it, so that when we talked about it, it meant something more. I did feel an absence, and it's not really this episode's fault, because I almost feel like it should have been done in a previous episode to this one, so that when we're talking about it in this episode, it already has the context. So it's not necessarily a criticism of this episode, which I do think is very good. But yeah, I felt an absence of seeing the negative effects of what she's doing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think, seeing the effects more than seeing bad characteristics like in the Varric scene would have been powerful. Whether that stuff is like worse in your mind and hard to display in a kids' TV show, although they have just killed characters before. Justice for Jack
in some pretty violent ways, if memory serves.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I guess I think it's a fair point for sure.
Yeah, and look, it's not a big thing because like I believe the characters say it with a sort of finality that makes me like, okay, that's what's happening. And she does when she threatens Varric, and when they recapture them, she talks about sending them to the concentration camps, which makes them real in a way we didn't know for sure they were. Excuse me, because earlier in the episode, it's someone else who accuses her of having them. And she sort of brushes it off. So there's still an element of doubt as to whether these camps exist. You only know for sure they exist when she threatens to send Varric to them. I guess, the re-education camps. But, like... Yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're still going to do that. Maybe we're just doing it in a different order. And, like, maybe next week we'll see the effects of some of this stuff and it won't matter at all. But, yeah, it's something I noticed as I was watching it. Like, again, I just want to make it clear that not a full criticism, just an observation that's kind of like something that niggled at me with this episode. But we'll see how it plays out, because maybe the next few episodes will be purely dedicated to that and I've just forgotten. Absolutely plausible. I will say you and Nadia are united in your theories about Julie. Nadia had a slightly different approach to it, though. So Nadia also has seen this show before, but has completely forgotten this season. Like me, it's one of the seasons she's seen the least for the similar reasons, I think. First few seasons were watched a lot, and then this fourth one sort of, how far do you get in a rewatch before you lose track or get busy? So she's sort of got vague memories but can't put it together. Her theory, right, was Julie complaining about his feet was Nadia's smoking gun. Because she said she didn't think Varric would have nasty feet because he's like a rich guy that has someone like a Julie to clean them. So she thinks that was Julie indicating to Varric that this is a plan, that this is a and she is still loyal to Varric specifically. How are we feeling about the feet theory, Chris?
I mean, it makes sense. I think that, I think it makes sense as a theory. I think it would be. It was almost so far away that if in 4 episodes she proves her allegiance, if he says, "Oh, I knew that because you said it was my feet, and my feet are lovely and manicured," I think it would be a bit like, huh? Do we need... Like, do you know what I mean? I'm not sure. I think it will feel a bit weird to go back to that reference in 4 episodes' time, but, I'd love it. And also, I'll be honest with you, Dan, if feet theory turns out to be correct, Nadia can't claim that's a theory. That's just memory of the episode that has lodged itself somewhere.
I did say that. I said, could this be your subconscious sort of like pulling the theory, like to pulling the events to the forefront? Human memory, notoriously unreliable, though, famously unreliable. So who knows? But yeah, I think there is a chance that is from somewhere, and she's not clutching completely at straws. Or it's the theory she had last time she watched it and it was proven false. Who knows? Listeners, comment below. Hashtag feet theory.
But I did, like I said earlier, like her kicking ass in the robot suit, the scene between her and Varric. I felt like, I realised as I was saying it that actually, if it was a falling in love thing, that might be a bit messed up, and a fucking horrible abuse of power on his part. But them exploring that notion was interesting. Maybe I'm overreading, her catching him catching her, and all of that sort of stuff. But I just thought they've sort of, I feel like they've teetered on the edge of really explaining Julie multiple times, and it being almost making the character sort of a background character, but then a joke and the butt of the joke sometimes. So to see her kick ass and fend for herself very well and all that sort of stuff, I thought was very, very entertaining.
It was super satisfying, and when you combine it, even if the turn at the end turns out to have to be fake, and she's not really on Kuvira's side, if because there's 2 ways this goes, right? She's either being smart and getting out, and sort of saying what she needs to say to get out of the situation, or she really is just been pushed too far by Varric, and that is also absolutely believable, right? He has not treated her well over the years, and there is something very satisfying here to seeing him so helpless and her so badass. And actually, that whole fight sequence at the end, I could see somebody levying an argument against this episode that those 3 are captured, then they try to escape, fail, and then end up where they started, and that you could probably trim 5-10 minutes out of this episode, storyline-wise, by having Bolin go to rescue Varric and then just having them caught straight away. But, one, I think you lose a lot of the Julie stuff and the impact of her final moments if you do that. But 2, it's a really good fight sequence. If you just want to talk entertainment value, right? Sometimes a show is allowed to just be entertaining for entertaining's sake. And I do also think they're doing story stuff with Julie and Varric during that fight sequence. But even if that wasn't true, I'd still be fairly happy to defend this fight sequence's existence, because seeing Bolin use the lava powers and how they've come along since we last saw him in combat, incredible, because obviously some time has passed. First time we're really seeing him at it since he learned how to do it, and he's gotten way better. The cool robot on robot action is just awesome. I like that they were very smart to make the robots they were sneaking away in a different color to the enemy ones, so we knew who's who. That was good. I appreciated that small detail, but a good one. In fact, the only real thing I didn't love in the sequences, there was some ropey CGI on some of the robot shots, and I know that I know it's cheaper and quicker, and this show had a really finite budget, and they got in a lot of there was, by this season they were tightening the reins quite a lot, as we will really discover later this season. There's one particular episode that we'll have to have a very long discussion about budget and how these things work, but the CG wasn't flawless on the robots at all times, but mostly it worked, and I thought what was happening in each scene had a lot of tension to it, and I really liked it. And it was full of great jokes as well, like a fight scene full of also good gags, like Varric being helpless and stuff. Like, yeah, please give me that all day, every day. So yeah, a big fan of that sequence at the end. I thought it was very, very good.
Yeah, I really liked the action in that, and the action in the fight scene in particular. Bolin using the lava powers, but then also using traditional earth bending, like that scene, where he brings up the lava, encourages them to get out the suits, and then captures them with standard sort of, or more traditional rather, earth bending. I thought was really strategic, great visually, but also really strategic on Bolin's part. And yeah, I thought the decision to, the story decision to actually have him get out the suit fairly quickly and do some some bending was great, because we don't. I can't think of the last time, and either you or the audience will go, well, obviously this, and I'll go, oh yeah, of course. But I feel like we haven't had a lot of awesome bending fights this year. I might be wrong.
No.
So yeah, I thought that was really great to see.
No, you're right. Actually, it's been pretty light on action as the series has gone. I mean, we saw Korra in the ring getting her ass handed to her. Yeah, nothing's springing to mind. And so that what that tells me, you can't think of one, I can't think of one, and that means that even if I was to go back and actually point to one, it can't have been that spectacular or memorable because we've both forgotten it. So, that would indicate that at least we didn't enjoy it enough for it to have really made an impression on us, even if there is one there. I agree 100% with everything you just said. Let's quickly talk about Korra. I thought Korra had a really interesting arc in this episode. I say arc, like a really interesting set of behaviors. Like, it's interesting with Korra that she does just seem to have. She keeps learning stuff not in front of us. And I think that's really interesting in terms of the way they keep doing this with the characters. So Korra basically shows up and they're like, this is what's gonna happen. Are you gonna go kick Kuvira's ass? And she's literally like, no, I'm gonna fight. Well, fighting is what the old me would do, and that always made things worse, which is interesting. So then she goes to talk. So she spoke to Sia, and Sia's like, go sort out Kuvira. She's like, I'm gonna go talk to her. She goes to talk to Kuvira. Kuvira's like, well, how about you talk to Sia? She's like, yeah, that's a good idea. And she goes back, like with the tail between her legs. Really interesting, because talking is not helping anyone here. Battle seems inevitable at this point. Violence seems like the only real way out of this for all these characters, and it's putting Korra right in that spot of like, okay, fix it without violence. She's like, I'm trying, but she just does not have the tools. She doesn't know how. She wants to be able to just be wise and talk people down. But I mean, what this show has done before is prove that not every Avatar has been capable of that. Like sometimes the Avatar has to take action. Like the amount of in that episode where we had the Avatar and the Fire Lord, where it was Sozin and Roku, and Roku told Sozin to back down, and he didn't, and then he had to take physical action, and that was really compelling stuff. We might see Korra backed into a corner here too, in a similar way. But I just thought it was a really interesting choice to have her very obviously observe that jumping headfirst in, going, oh, you must be the bad guy, and trying to fight them was what I've done most of my career thus far, and it has not helped very often. So I'm going to go have a chat with Kuvira. I thought that was very interesting as an approach, and I like what they're doing, even if I feel like it's a little like we never really saw her learn that that's what she should be doing. She's just kind of slowly decided that over the last 2 years, I guess, and we're now seeing it take action. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't, especially when we as we sort of complained about last week. She sort of the lessons learned and the conclusions reached didn't feel overly explored or connected to the other plots. So I think to then sort of have an implication of, oh, I've also come to this realization is a little bit like, I'm not sure how you came to the realizations last time, let alone this.
Yeah. It's an interesting situation. I don't even know whether to criticize it or not. I think it's okay for characters to have learnt some stuff not in front of us, but it just seems like an awful lot of the time. Korra has grown. We see her in state A not having grown, then we see her in state Z having grown, and we're never really sure what that journey was in between. Like, stuff happens to her, but it's never really so cleanly written that you understand how she got from one to the other. You could just sort of point vaguely to all of the things that have happened and go, well, that stuff, I guess. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could vaguely point to seasons 1, 2, and 3 of the show and go, yeah, through all of those experiences, she's learned that maybe she should have a chat with someone before immediately throwing a big, ball of water at them or fire at them or something. Yeah, okay, sure. But is that satisfying narratively to have a character learn that way? Because I think the traditional storytelling structure and narrative would indicate that, like, we'd have a very specific event we could tie that lesson to that would really make it clear for us, the audience, that she's had that growth and from X, Y, and Z. I just think it's sort of, yes, it just about tracks. Like, there's nothing about what she said that I wouldn't believe this person who's been through what she's been through could have learned. But the show didn't use the usual storytelling techniques to satisfyingly clarify that, so that I got that hit of sort of like emotion, logic, like all character stuff coming together. If we had scenes that had really laid on thick where and when this had really occurred to Korra, then when she says that this week, it would have had more impact. You know what I mean? Like, by using sort of more traditional narrative structures. So it's not even a question of her arc not making sense. It makes perfect sense that somebody who's been through so much of what she's been through would come to that conclusion. It's just we never really saw it. So here it feels out of the blue. It doesn't feel satisfying, which is a shame.
Yeah,
I
think it's not aided by the fact that what she's been doing is also, illegal bending fights, and then she hung out with Toph. So it's like you sort of also go, like you say, it makes sense, but what we've seen and the characters she's been hanging out with are very much lean to the violence.
Yeah, that's true. That's like, because even if you're saying she learnt that across seasons 1 through 3, then you go, well, what was the last 2 years about then? Like, yeah, you're right. It was all about her getting good at violence again, no? Like, was it not about her not being good at the violence part of being the Avatar? She was physically weaker. She was physically less capable. And I'm all for her getting wiser, and I'm all for her sort of showing a little bit of ang, and a little bit of, I'm not just here to fight. Let's talk first. I'm 100%. That's a good message. Makes sense. It's just, it doesn't, it's not really fitting in with the story we're telling as cleanly as I would like it to. The mixed up sort of approach to Korra's arcs has led to some weirdness here, because this feels like the payoff to a thing we haven't seen. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I think that's to be honest with you, I think that's a good summary. I think that's a good way of phrasing that. Yeah. Anyway, again, nothing terrible, nothing like completely broken. I like that's where she's at as a character. Just don't think it was earned. So yeah, moving on to some of the other stuff. Let's talk a little bit more about the Asami stuff. I was really surprised by this. So first of all, justice for Asami. She's got her own storyline. That's good. I'm glad they haven't just forgotten that she has a dad in prison. But it did feel a bit out of the blue, right? Like, I'd gotten to the point where I'd accepted they weren't bringing him back, and that wasn't like going to be a thing. Do you know what I mean? I was ready to write that character off because the show had. So they didn't. At this point, I was no longer sort of wondering, where's Asami's father in any of this? So bringing him back now, when I'd stopped caring, is a really bold choice. And obviously they're setting up a plot for later in the season. This is going to continue. Do you have any thoughts on either where that might go, or how you felt about them sort of choosing to bring him back when maybe they probably didn't need to? I guess it depends where it's going, but yeah. Yeah, I think it depends purely where it's going. Theories, no, because there's a few different ways you could do it. He could betray her again, and that could be heartbreaking. You would hope that isn't what happens.
Yeah, she's been through enough. She's been through plenty. Thank you, TV show. Let's justice for Asami, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I was just like you. I was quite excited to see it, quite surprised by seeing it. But yeah, enjoyed it.
I was surprised by it, and I've seen this show before.
Yeah, we continue to learn that yours and Nadia's memory of this season in particular is shoddy.
Shoddy, really shoddy. I think it's going to be interesting because I think it'll really have to have been worth it, because I was prepared to forget that this character existed. And there are other things they could have done with, if you just like, let's do something interesting with Asami. There are other things you could have done that'd be more tied to the overall plot. So hopefully whatever it is comes back around to our Kuvira situation. I don't want Asami on a side quest, because then I'm back to justice for Asami. So wherever this ends up going, whether it is that, somehow he's rehabilitated, he gets out of prison, and he helps the good guys win with his technology, or he knows how to stop Kuvira's technology, or he betrays Asami. I mean, that's as much as I'm like, please don't do this to Asami. She's had enough. Like, doing that would still be an interesting plot angle and would be linked to what's going on in the wider world. I would be very disappointed if whatever's going on with him now doesn't link back in.
I don't think anyone wants just a random side plot on it, for sure. Yeah.
Because that isn't the justice for Asami we were talking about. It's not just use Asami, it's make sure she's involved in the actual plot, not give her a side quest. Yeah. So, yeah. And I thought there was some lovely stuff in it, though. I mean, the line... I tell you what, how beautiful was... There was one line when he said something like... it's like, you're the best thing I ever created, or something like that. I thought I wrote it down, but I can't see it now.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I wrote down the exact quote and I can't find it. It's in my notes. I'll see it later and then say it again. Oh no, here you go. It's right here. You are the greatest thing I ever created. Hey, I was pretty close. I really thought that was a beautiful line, and I thought the actual execution of their scenes together was really good as well. They had a lot of like emotion and tension built into them, considering it's a character we haven't seen in 2 seasons, like 3 seasons. Like that's it was impressive how quickly they did make me feel something for both of them in this situation again. So that was good.
Did you feel the pain? I agree with that. Did you feel the pain of having Bolin and Korra like so close to each other, but not interact or see each other?
A little. I yes and no, because I understand that like Bolin was on an arc that couldn't really meet with Korra this episode, because obviously Bolin was in I'm learning that Kuvira is like truly a force for evil and needs to be stopped, whereas we really need to have Korra, for her storyline this episode to work, be in the I'm playing it neutral right now, I'm talking to everyone stage. She has to learn that later than Bolin, because she's only just gotten on the scene, and you have to, if you want me to believe her, I'm going to talk to everyone and figure this out, I'm not just going to run in punching. If she meets Bolin and he tells her what's going on, she has to believe Bolin, and then she has to run in punching, and then her entire going in fist first doesn't always help me thing just falls apart. So you sort of like, because of where they both were in their relationship to Kuvira and their understanding of what Kuvira is, you couldn't bring them together at all this week for fear of collapsing either plot. I think that would have been a problem. I did feel it though. You're right, because it's just like they're so tantalizingly close together, and I would love Team Avatar to be back together. I'm confident we'll get it, not just because I remember, and I genuinely don't. I'm sure we do though, because it's the final season. At some point, Bolin, Mako, Asami, and Korra are going to be in the same place. And on the same side and united against whatever that thing is, maybe with Tenzin and Suyin and Lin Beifong as well. Fuck it, throw in Toph and the Airbender kids too. Like, let's bring them all together. Let's do a proper Avengers assemble. Let's do it. Why not, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I know it. I know it's probably coming. So I felt it, but I wasn't like too upset, because I know we're probably going to get it next week, especially now. As soon as Korra figures out that Bolin has been captured, like actually taken like as a prisoner by Kuvira, and isn't just hanging out with her because he works for her, that's going to be Korra's moment of going, oh no, this has gone sideways. I need to get involved. whether that be by force or not. That's going to be a good catalyst for Korra. It's a shame to have Bolin used like that as a MacGuffin in a story, but he is going to probably be the catalyst for Korra seeing the truth of Kuvira, I think. Because I'm not too sure Korra would give too much of a damn about Varric. No, not to shit on Varric, but like I don't think Korra is particularly attached to Varric. I think the whole episode had a good amount of tension to it, though. I really enjoyed like that. When will this fighting begin vibe?
Yeah, I did too. And I really like the setup. I really like that we're ending on this war over the city, and very specifically. Veric and Bolin off somewhere being obviously I don't want to see them captured, and I certainly the camp element of it is scary.
Yeah,
for lots of reasons.
Nadia said it all sounds a bit Lake Laogai. It's all a bit.
It's just all a bit
no
like
war in Bar 6A.
It's all a bit Veric and Bolin going away to these education camps. It's scary because it's like what it means for the characters, whether they're gonna, whether they are gonna, have their minds turned, but also like, oh man, I hope the show handles that right and handles
Carefully.
It well, and and all that sort of stuff. But the notion of like those two. Especially because, like, you've got such a thing that we all know what they're emulating here. We all know what the implication is in terms of the real world comparisons, and that's quite a serious, dark topic. And Veric is a light-hearted, jokey joke character. Yeah. So the merging of those two is going to be a real fine line, I think, and I'm intrigued and trepidatious about that. But fundamentally, Veric and Bolin getting their own sort of side plot is fascinating. Yeah, see, if I was going to theorize, I'd almost... Because even Bolin is quite, obviously a jokey character. If I was going to theorize, I'd be like, maybe they escape on the way. We never actually see them there, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually. I was just thinking about, like talking of Veric and, like, that where they're going to end next week. That could really solve my conundrum of seeing them if we do it that way. Although I still feel like it's the wrong way around. I think this week's episode would have had more impact had we known about them already, like seen them already. But whatever, that's fine. But it also feels like they're doing something interesting with Veric's character in general this episode. We've forgotten to talk about the super weapon that he's potentially developed with the Spirit Vine.
Oh yeah.
We earlier in the episode we establish. He's been experimenting with spirit vines, which we'd already had a glimpse of earlier in the season. It ends up causing this massive explosion. It becomes very clear that they can be, with a bit of science, these spirit vines contain a great amount of energy and can be turned into these big sort of laser weapons potentially and cause a huge amount of destruction. It's potentially very, very dangerous. And even Veric thinks that's a line crossed. This guy... this episode kind of posits it is that he's changed, he's grown. Maybe I am a little different these days. Maybe I've got a bit of a heart or a conscience now. The voices in my head, whatever. They make a bunch of jokes about that. But actually, from my perspective as a viewer, I was just like, I'm not sure it's that you've changed, Veric. I'm just think that this is just even a line you won't cross. You like the impact of Veric being like, oh no, this is too far, makes me go, well, what the fuck is this then? Because he's helped some bad guys do some shit, right, in the past. Both season 2 and 3, Veric's been in the thick of doing some dodgy shit. I'm looking at it now, like, if he won't do it, then this weapon's serious. Like, he just immediately saw what it did and went, nope, we're shutting it down. And I was like, oh, it made me scared of this thing, whatever it is, because... Again,
again, I don't think the analogies are too far away from the text here. It's the atomic bomb, isn't it? It's nuclear weapons essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to some degree. I mean, we didn't get a sense of exactly the scale of it, but he referred to it as a super weapon. And again, his fear of it when he saw what it did on just a small scale clearly demonstrated we are talking about something with very large scale destructive capabilities for sure. So yeah, I'm very, very interested in that. And obviously, the great thing about this episode is, as well as all of this natural tension between the sides as we as they talked in circles, and we felt the tensions rising, and this super weapons threat looming, and Kuvira clearly being unhinged and learning more about what she's done to the Earth Kingdom to unite it, the cost of that, the cost of uniting people in her way. We've had a ton of great jokes this week as well. Like, it's great when you put Varric and Bolin at the center of an episode, you can just keep doing that. But, like, there's so many laughs in this episode. Like, my favorite of all of them, I think, might be when Julie was like, "You saved me." And he was like, "Of course I did. I can't clean this place by myself. Now grab a broom." It's such a brilliant joke.
What's your view on that? Because obviously I've talked about how it feels like they're playing a slight moment there, but then maybe actually that would be weird. What's your view on that? I feel like I talked myself in circles a little bit on that subject. Did you? I'm dragging you down as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if they choose to go that way, that's fine. But I if they don't, I still basically that moment I can accept in either context. It's either maybe she's always had a soft spot for Varric, and that's why she's been so loyal to him in spite of his mistreatment of her and him being rude. Like, she knows deep down he means well, even if he's horrible on the surface, sort of thing. Because she actually knows him. And, a demonstration of that this week is him choosing not to continue developing the super weapon. Maybe she's seen that side of him before, right? So she's loyal and she supports Varric. And that's just what that was, If you want to go down the route that she's smitten with him in some way, and he just doesn't see it, because he's so focused on his science and being a lunatic, that's also fine and kind of funny. So it really depends I'm happy with either interpretation of that scene, depending on what they do next. I think there's ways to make both those ideas work. I'm okay with either of them. Yeah. But both of those though imply not just that she may be lying to Kuvira at the end, but that she may still be very loyal to Varric, potentially. Because if she's not loyal to Varric, she just sees Kuvira for what she is, and she really has had enough of Varric's mistreatment. Well, that's going to change. That's going to change the dynamics going forward quite a lot, and you'll never really get a quote-unquote payoff of that. But also, actually, notice what he did this week. He did call a unit of measurement a Varric, but he called a smaller unit of measurement a Julie. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
that's quite sweet. He called a unit of measurement a Julie, and then he said there were 5 Varrics of power. And I loved when he said, "Shut it down. There are too many Varrics," which I thought was an amazing line. So yeah, I don't know. I'm on board with them doing something between those two if they want to. I don't. Again, the more we go into the season, the more I learn how little I remember of this season. But I would be okay with it. I don't know. Do you not feel okay with that? Is your hesitation that you don't like that idea?
No, I like the idea, but I think there's also a negative translation of it. He's her boss and has been relatively abusive to her over the years.
Right.
So
right.
I'm not sure how comfortable I am with it. But I discovered people heard me discover that thought live on this podcast. I didn't think it in the moment, but as I was talking about it earlier, I was like, actually, is that a bit weird? Yeah, I think it's uncomfortable. Yeah.
Can I ask though, does that not depend on who has feelings for who though, right? Because Varric has not demonstrated much interest in Julie. She's the one that's all like, "You saved me." It's like, of course, I need someone to clean up. He wasn't exactly googly eyes at Julie. The closest thing we got to affection for her is that he named a unit of measurement after her, which is also just a sweet thing you might do for a colleague that's helped you develop a technology. Do you know what I mean? I'm assuming from what we've seen in this episode, if there is anything romantic there, it's that Julie has has soft spot for him that has gone thus far unacknowledged, unrequited, because Varric is a psychopath that's so obsessed with his work and his profits that he's never he doesn't think of other people, basically, full stop. In which case it feels a lot less icky because it's not a superior taking advantage of their position of power. It's a subordinate having a crush, or whatever you want to call it, and that's less icky in my mind. Still think you probably shouldn't act on that. If you're listening to this and you're out there and you're developing some feelings for a boss of yours, I would say challenge those feelings as much as possible. So people get roped into some dodgy situations when those power dynamics come into play. But I think I would be okay with it if that's the angle. You're right, though. If it is that Varric is sort of like pursuing her somehow, then yeah, I feel deeply uncomfortable with it, if I'm being honest. So yeah,
it's interesting. We'll see how it unfolds.
And we really will have to see, because I genuinely don't remember.
Oh, that's clear. That's very clear.
I wish I did.
Have you got any other notes?
Yeah, I've got a couple of quick ones. I just wrote down the line, why did we go to all that trouble to save you, Korra, if you're not going to beat somebody up? Just really loved that line. Made me laugh. Milo being funny. On board. I made some notes about the scale of Kuvira's army being pretty terrifying as well. There's some really great establishing shots at the beginning of this episode that show how many ships and troops are currently outside of Zhaofu. It's absolute Zhaofu. It's actual overkill, and it's crazy to see, and it does bulk the tension of this episode up. It also made me wonder, just a small side point, will Kuvira stop at Zhaofu? Did the Queen not think that Republic City needed to be returned to Earth Kingdom rule, following it being taken from the Earth Kingdom during the 100-Year War by the Fire Nation?
That could be an interesting way of doing it. She takes what's the Earth Kingdom city called again? I know you've just
Zhaofu.
Zhaofu. So she takes Zhaofu, and you're like, as an audience member, you're like, what the fuck? She actually did it. She actually achieved it, and we sort of see that rise, and it's daunting and terrifying, and then it's the attempt on Republic City that they manage to stop, and that's how they squash her and all that stuff.
Yeah, because it's always good, and it's good. Like they do it in we do it in cartoons a lot. We do it in comics a lot, superhero stories a lot. We do it in wrestling a lot. That idea of the villain gets the win early to make them seem more threatening and more insurmountable, so that when they then get the loss, it feels earned. You know, they did Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War. You know, Infinity War first, obviously, then Endgame. They did it perfectly the way they handled that, and you could do it exactly that here. You could give Kuvira a win to make her seem more daunting, and then think, I guess she's just won, and then she turned her eyes on Republic City. It did make me think about that, because she's not mentioned it yet, but she really has put a lot of emphasis on every Earth Kingdom colony must be returned. And we know that.
Yeah, you're right.
That's come up a few times. And at first, I thought we were just talking about Zhaofu. But we're 5 episodes into a 13-episode season or something. We're at Zhaofu. I know, not to spoil anything, Chris, but next week's episode is called something like the Battle of Zhaofu. So. What's the rest of the season? Yeah. So it has got me thinking. But anyway, we've talked about Varric and his crossing the line. I really liked all of the discussions that were had in this episode. We didn't really talk about them, but they were all written really well, where it was people putting their points of view across, and those sort of tame but tense negotiations. Like when Kuvira and Suyin got into the same room as each other, and Suyin saw straight through her plan to bring Bolin in, and also a little reminder of the tension that's created between Bolin and Opal. All of those scenes, we haven't really discussed them, but they were all really well done. I just want to make that point. They were very good at both sides throwing barbs back and forth, but in a way that was escalating things, but we demonstrated that political differences. We built the tension. They all were very good. We didn't really talk about them. They're not the most exciting scenes to have a conversation about, but they did what they were doing in this episode well, which is continue to ramp up tension and put Bolin on his character arc for this episode of learning the truth about Kuvira, and seeing the way she was using him to get on the good side of Suyin was step 1 of that journey, and I thought they all went really well, and were all written and executed brilliantly.
Agreed.
Yeah. Oh, and I like what it says about Suyin as well, that she just saw. Is Su-Lin? No, Lin is the other one. Suyin. She saw right through the plan, by the way, as well, which I thought taught us something about Suyin. She's not an idiot. She immediately was like, no, I know why you brought Bolin. I liked that as well.
I did.
We didn't talk about this. And this is one of those things where I put it in my notes, and then when I watched the episode last night, and then this morning I grabbed the trivia, and it's also in the trivia, but I'm going to cover it here because I thought of it first, god damn it, and I will not have the trivia steal this from me. Her excuse for doing what she's doing as aggressively as she's doing it, Kuvira, was that she's sharing progress with everyone. That is the exact logic Sozin used to expand the Fire Nation outside of the Fire Nation. We're sharing our success and prosperity and progress with the world. It's so good. What a great choice to parallel the original battle of Avatar, the franchise. Love it. Thumbs up. Just beautiful work. Great. Dictators always fall on that sort of nonsense when they're spreading their territory. Anyway, let's see. We talked about that. I've got notes on a lot of stuff we've already covered here, actually. Actually, I don't think this is... Oh, no, one last note that we haven't talked about very quickly. Guards, do the thing. And then Varric's, not the thing. Yeah. So good.
Yeah, I wondered whether that came across to me, like, had fans started to notice that that's how people got dragged out in this show a lot. Like, I really liked that.
It was so good. Because the amount of times Varric has been like, do the thing to Zhu Li, and to have her be like, guards, do the thing. Oh, my God. Mwah. I just, yeah, all of the chef's kiss to that. It's great. We should talk about the final note of this episode, actually, because there's one plot point we haven't discussed, and I would love to get your thoughts on it, Chris. Suyin tempted, seemingly planning some sort of sneaking into the enemy camp at night sort of thing. Are we thinking assassination attempt or one last-ditch effort to have a chat? I suspect it's the former, but
I think one last ditch. She described her as a daughter in this episode, so I suspect it's one last attempt to have a chat. Versus, if those are my two options, I'd go one last attempt to have a chat over assassination attempt.
Yeah, I honestly think there's a chance it could be like a kidnap assassinate situation. Take the head off the snake to save Zaofu and the people of Zaofu. I feel like you could justify Su Yin feeling like hundreds and hundreds of people would die in a battle between the two, whereas if she could just take out Kuvira, that would, the greater good sort of sitch. I think you could make it. I think you could sell me on that. I really do. But you're leaning on one last, because if it was one last, if it was a talk, she wouldn't need to sneak in, would she? She'd just be like, Kuvira, we need to talk. She'd have do they just have a chat?
She might feel she can't get past her guards, or maybe it's an assassination attempt. I just think that'd be bold. But then again, we're kind of dealing with parallels to concentration camps and the atomic bomb, so maybe it's not that bold.
Yeah, because I was just thinking about it, and like Kuvira came in and said you got 24 hours to decide. If presumably she decided she wanted to negotiate a surrender, she'd have to talk to Kuvira. She'd have to be like, all right, we're gonna surrender. Come on in. So she just wanted to chat. She could chat to her that way, right? By just saying we need to talk. And Kuvira would just go, oh yeah, okay, this is her giving up, and they'd have the chat. I think the fact that she's deliberately leaving with a small group to like sneak in, she's at least planning to kidnap, if not assassinate. I feel.
Yeah, I see that logic.
But we'll see. Next week we'll hear it all. Because, as I said, Chris, the episode is not subtle. It's called The Battle of Zaofu. So it's all kicking off next week regardless. Right, let's do some triv, Chris. Do the thing.
Let's triv it up!
I'm going to give you some trivia. I liked that. That was like a low-key triv it up, I presume, because, neighbours and early in the morning. Was it like 7:15 for you now?
Thinking a bit more of my neighbours rather than last week where I just sort of yelled it.
I really like the idea that it's going to get quieter and quieter, and by the end of this series, you'll be just like, triv it up.
I think selfishly as well, because I should be thinking of my neighbours all the time, but I haven't heard much evidence that Jess is up and about either, so that was also for her.
What I really like about that is your neighbours are sat in the bedroom like he's about to yell triv it up again, isn't he? And then you didn't, and they went, oh, that was considerate, and then they heard that last part and went, oh, he wasn't considerate about us. He was think of his bloody wife again. What a bell end.
Well,
right.
Maybe it would be considerate if they didn't burn shit when people had stuff in the garden down. But
he's back on it, everyone. It is. I love this grudge that's happening in my head now. This is like that, like a Neighbours from Hell type show, where they're like, and he's always yelling, "Triv it up," and then it cuts to you, and you're like, they're always burning stuff. So I installed cameras to watch them burning stuff. Now we installed a decibel meter to see how loud he yells, "Triv it up."
No, they're good. They're good neighbours. They're fine. They're fine. Yeah.
Oh, I'm waiting for it to turn into a Neighbours from Hell episode. Anyway, right, trivia time.
Well, we don't really. What's your just a quick one on this then?
On.
What's your? Because I have a slight reputation for this at work because I haven't really made any efforts to bond with our neighbour. I'm not a Neighbours guy. Do you know what I mean? Not the TV show. Big fan. But I've never anywhere I've lived have I particularly like formed friendships with my neighbours. I've always very much been at sort of nodding hello level.
Yep.
And some people have found that weird, but I'm like, I'm fine with that.
No, that has to be the way. I'm with you. And I'll tell you exactly why, Chris. Becoming close to a person that lives next door to you is a great way to never, ever get time to yourself. If you genuinely became friends with your neighbours, like good friends, where you could like go out to the pub together or whatever, you'd be round at each other's houses all the fucking time, making each other's lives miserable. I'm sorry, when I'm home, I need my space. It used to drive me crazy when I was a kid and I was at home. My mum was friends with several of our neighbours, and she would make plans for the day that would be usurped because there'd be a knock at the door, it'd be a neighbour just popping by for a brew, and then they'd be chatting for hours, and I'd have to be sat around waiting because I was involved in the original plans, and I'm not now doing that. And then I have to watch my mum flap about having to change her plans because she got caught out by the neighbour coming around at the wrong time. Now, a good, polite distance from the people who live next door to you at all times.
Yeah, I do because I've got friends before. Because I think the thing for me is and maybe this is just the type of personalities we are. But I've got a mate at work who would describe exactly what you're describing, and for me, it's like, look, I love my friends. I love seeing my friends. I like to plan that shit though. I like to know when I'm going to see someone, and I like to know when. It's going to be just the two of us for the evening. And the notion of, a neighbour scenario where you get into pop-in territory.
Yeah.
Nah.
I honestly couldn't think of anything worse. Like, I might be sat around in my pants doing some TV, watching some TV, or like just trying to rest. Like yesterday, I was bedridden all day. Oh my God, imagine if someone had knocked around while I was in bed yesterday sick. No, absolutely not. No, I can hear everyone going, "You don't have to answer." Well, what if it's like a parcel or something? Like, then I would answer, wouldn't I? Because it'd be a parcel. Basically, you're telling me I need to own a Ring doorbell.
But you do have to answer, because I'm sure there are people that love their friends and there are people that love their family. But I'm sure they have no desire for their friends or family to know every single movement they make. And that's the other element of it. You would have to answer, because chances are the neighbour would know you were fucking in.
Yeah. Yeah, because you'd at least know they were in because you'd seen the smoke, the smokestack that usually indicates their home. And they'd know you were in because they'd have just heard you yell, "Triv it up."
True.
Anyway,
true fact.
Trivia time. Let's do it. I've cut out the trivia where it repeats that in the Avatar and the Fire Lord we learned that Kuvira's logic is the same as the leader from Legend of Korra, so we know that. So the first, I just realised what I did was I said I cut it and then I basically repeated it. Stupid thing to do. Didn't help. Saved no time at all.
Yeah. And it doesn't help you, because the more you do that, the more I start to think the Triv told you.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, which is frustrating because it was in my notes. Like, I wrote it in my notes last night. I checked the Triv this morning. Anyway, this is the first episode in which Bolin did appear, but Mako did not. So historically, when one has been absent, so has the other. So this is the first time we've had one of them, but not the other, basically, or in that order. Specifically, Bolin appeared, Mako didn't. I imagine it's possible we might have had it the other way around previously, but we've never had it in that order.
Oh wow, that's cool. I didn't realise that.
Yeah, it's a nice little bit of Triv. Varric's exclamation that the head voices are liars was an improvised line from actor John Michael Higgins, who I contend should be a national treasure in the States, and the fact you guys haven't elevated him to that status yet is an absolute outrage. I love the man. He's very good. He's good as Varric, but he's good in a million things. I love that man. He's great. And that is a great line that he improvised. There was a scene of Kuvira using metal bending to perform target practice on a really sort of unique device. It was actually cut from the final storyboard because the production crew took it as an unnecessary action scene that would have actually given the animators too many design hurdles to manage and would have probably cost more money than they had spare. And I guess that means the money got reallocated to the fight. The money and effort and time all got then shuffled into making the final action sequence of the episode better. So yeah, good work. Probably a wise choice because it doesn't sound like it did much for the story.
Yeah, agreed.
So, I think it's a slightly... We got feedback from last series. It's a slightly long one, but I don't think I have as much to say on this one. I just really wanted to read this out because I think it's a really interesting observation. So I don't know if we'll have a lot to discuss on this one, but it is a fairly long one. Do you want to give us a little jingle, Chris, before we go into it?
Yep. It's listener feedback from the last time that we didn't get a chance to respond to, but we're responding to it now.
Hi, and welcome to feedback from last series. This week we're taking a look at a comment we received on our Into the Void episode from Shadow Vanify. Now, I don't remember the exact comment that triggered this thought in Shadow Vanify, but he references your comparison of Aang and Korra reminded me of a theory I read once. This is very tangential, but I found it interesting and don't know when else would be a better time to mention it. So, the theory goes that the next Avatar's personality and qualities are determined by the faults and desires of the previous Avatar. So, the comment here now tracks it through from Yang Chen to today. It's very, very interesting. So, to use the examples from the avatars we're most familiar with, Yang Chen felt constrained by her duty, so Avatar Kuruk chose to live a carefree life. Kuruk's inaction led to the death of his fiancée, so Kyoshi was a bold and decisive avatar. Kyoshi isolated herself from forming close relationships, so that Roku valued his friendship with Sozin more than he should have, and let Sozin, build power, which is why we ended up with our 100-Year War. Roku felt conflicted by the title of the avatar, so Aang ran away and denied his identity. Aang was pressured to master the other elements quickly, so Korra was able to bend water, earth, and fire early. She was a water, earth, and fire bending prodigy, but neglected her spiritual side and airbending. It's not a 100% airtight theory. The progression from Roku to Aang is a little bit weaker, but it's interesting nonetheless. So thank you, Shadow Vanify, for the comment. I think that's a really interesting point. If this follows through, are we to assume that the next Avatar will be a master of airbending and the spiritual side of things to make up for one of Korra's weaknesses? I don't know. She's kind of filled in that gap. She's ended up being quite a spiritual avatar in the end. But yeah, really interesting. What did you think to that, Chris, as a theory?
I like that theory. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think, like you say, it's interesting. I think that I like that theory. I'm abiding to that theory. I'm agreeing with that theory.
Yeah, I think so too. I think when a theory has that many concurrent examples that are so clear and clean and are based in the show as well. And I know some people are going to talk about, like, we Avatar Kuruk was in the show and his story was covered in the show, but obviously a lot of Kyoshi's stuff was filled out in a book. Yang Chen is a bit, that's been extended media mostly as well. But the rest of those were really in the show, and they're all pretty clear cut. They all really work.
So, I like that theory. I'm in.
Yeah. Any theory that can really just be based in a ton of evidence, I'm usually going to be on board with if it really fits with anything. Until, of course, the show contradicts it directly. Then I'm throwing it in the bin.
Booyah!
It's the same way I approach celebrities these days. They're a nice guy who I love until they turn out to be a monster, and then I never liked them in the first place. And if you think I did, you're lying.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget, Dan, we've been doing a podcast for 12 years, so unfortunately, there is audio out there of us praising people like Louis C.K. and,
it's fake news.
Gervais and whoever else.
Fake news, Chris. No one listened to our episode on American Gods.
Yeah. Who said
It's
American Gods?
Neil Gaiman.
Oh, yeah. See,
It's been a rough couple of weeks.
We're not necessarily comparing things there either. Just naming some people who perhaps our opinion on has changed over the last decade or so.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I think, look, in all seriousness, we never liked him in the first place, so maybe it hasn't changed. Maybe we always knew. We always knew, and we were just pretending. Anyway, thanks everyone for listening. We're big fans of you guys. Sometimes people send us messages and they go, like, "Oh, been a listener for a long time," and they're like, "You know, a bit of a fan." I'm like, "No, we're a fan of you. We're a fan of you."
Yeah, although same caveats.
Yep.
Unless you go on to do something horrible.
Yeah. In which case we never liked you in the first place. It's my new favorite game. Anyway, if you'd like to support us, there are a few ways you can do so. Obviously, head over to the Patreon where you can support us with your just directly with money. It's a lovely way to help pay some of the server bills we have. They're not massive, but we also don't have a huge Patreon, so we're not exactly churning the profits. I think we're just under breaking even at the moment, but it fluctuates. It fluctuates with Avatar and Rewind Reviews, basically. When Rewind Reviews is in, it goes down. When Avatar is in, it goes up. I am a little bit worried about what happens when we finish Avatar. But that's a different story. So if you want to support us financially, you can head over to patreon.com/NothingButStatic, where supporting us gets you access to episodes of this podcast and our other podcast on nostalgic movies, Rewind Reviews, 1 week ahead of their normal iTunes, Spotify sort of public release. Of course, there are other ways to support us that don't involve money. You can simply head to one of the platforms in which we post our content and like it, talk on it, comment on it, subscribe to it, poke it, like it, heart it, whatever the system in question is. That usually tells whatever algorithm runs that system that you enjoyed it and therefore makes it more likely to share it with others. Of course, you could just skip the middleman and do that yourself and tell a friend. You got a friend who's super into Avatar and Korra? Point them our way. That'd be lovely. We'd be into that. Of course, continuing to listen also massively supports what we do. So if you're just doing that, that is also amazing. Never any need to go further than just that. This can be purely transactional, and that's okay. But yeah, no, thank you everyone for listening. We really do appreciate you. Of course, if you'd like to support someone who has helped us, you can go support Raphodraws. Raphodraws gave us the brilliant piece of art at Appa at Sunset that we use as the key art for this podcast. If you've ever seen it on iTunes or Spotify, that sort of cover image, the album art, so to speak, comes from Rapho. Rapho did a great job. So if you head to Instagram.com/Raphodraws, RAPHODRAWS. They also have a Tumblr, a Twitter, and a Redbubble account where you can buy lots of different art that they've done on various things like mouse mats and mugs and iPhone cases. So yeah, go support a very good artist who is very kind enough to let us use their art. I think, is that everything? Did I cover all the things?
Yeah, man, you went through the real range there. I think we did at the end there. You know, we love you unless you've done something horrible, in which case we don't. Yeah. Any support is appreciated. If you want to make it purely transactional, also fine.
Yeah. I'm okay with people not forming any sort of bond or relationship with us. I think that's okay.
Yeah, that's also look. Look, we love you either way. If you want to take the approach of really listening and engaging, that's great. If you prefer to treat your podcasts how Dan and I treat our neighbours, that's also fine. That's not a problem at all.
That's my favourite thing. Yeah. Exactly that. If you think the idea of Chris or I stopping by for a cup of tea when you've got plans sounds absolutely demonstrably negative as an experience, then absolutely feel free to have a very, very light level of engagement with this podcast. That is fair and warranted. But yeah, no, we genuinely, fine. We have a great little listenership. We are by no means a successful podcast by no metric, but we do the listenership we do have are very, generally speaking, super nice people who are engaged at different levels, but have always been very polite and very kind and said some really nice things. And even though there's the odd person that very rightly stumbles across our Honey I Shrunk the Kids podcast and thinks it's the movie, gets mad at us, mostly we have very nice interactions with people online, so we're always very thrilled that you guys keep listening.
Still one of my favourite things.
It's one of mine too. One of mine too. Well, this is a fun episode. I'm sorry, everyone, if I was a bit off the rails. I think we got through it. I think we did okay.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just checking the video to see if there's been any comments recently.
To be fair, I noticed YouTube was filtering some out. There were like a bunch in the held for review that I cleared. There's none there right now. I've just gone into held for review. It says, "Nice work, you're all caught up." But YouTube filtered out a bunch that were just just abuse. It's very funny.
I still one of my favourite comments on this video is still the mad lads actually went and did it.
Yeah. Yeah. We did. We reviewed all the stuff. Anyway, it's been a good. Thank you, everyone.
Just to clarify, Dan, the most recent one was 3 years ago, and it simply says, "What the fuck."
Incredible. But you know what's funny is that is still regularly in our most watched. So I don't know where these if people just like not commenting now. They're just giving up being angry at it. Like I don't know, because I look, if I ever go to, in fact, let me just see if I can. Will it do it? Can't analysis. Okay.
Oh yeah, because isn't there the stat that 90% of people switch the video off after the first 30 seconds? Or
yeah. Yeah, that's exactly correct. So if I go to looking at our content and what our most viewed video was this month, it would not surprise me if that's up there. Oh, you know what? No, it's not actually. It's mostly our rewind reviews for Indiana Jones and the Star Wars ones.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's nice to hear.
Oh, that had some good retention too. 97% of people got further than 20 minutes in. That's a lot. That's high.
Oh, nice.
That's very high.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Thank you. Thank you very much.
There you go. That's some retention for you. Top videos in the last 28 days. Randomly, our review of Drop Dead Gorgeous. Oh, wait, no, here we go. Okay, yeah. So, Stephen University, where we reviewed the pilot, for some reason, was a top video in the last 28 days. That's our most watched one in the last 28 days, for some reason. Then Drop Dead Gorgeous. Then Honey, I Blew Up the Kid review.
Oh yeah, I only checked the first one. I didn't check Honey, I Blew Up the Kid.
Do I look at the comments for that one? What does it say?
Yeah.
Oh, this one's not in English. Let me read. Let's see if the Google can translate this one. Is this someone being mad at me in a foreign language? That's quite funny if true. Google Translate. Google Translate. It looks like someone's left us a message in Tamil. Detect language, and then enter it here. Oh, okay. So this is someone in Tamil saying, "Watch in Tamil plus put it in Tamil." Cool. Thank you, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
No, I don't either, but cool. Held for review? Anything held for review here? No. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening. As you've figured out from my weird mental state and proclivity to get on weird tangents this week, I'm about to go get some sleep.
well, on a final tangent then, I'll leave with this exchange, yes. Which is on Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Someone has written, way better than the first, but hey, I understand YouTubers, slaves of popular opinion. To which Dan has responded, oh yeah, with our 1.5k subscribers, we're at the mercy of the masses.
Quite sassy for me. I'm not normally that sassy, am I? In the comments.
Oh well, you don't. Oh no, wait. Oh god, this is a much. Oh my god, this is a much longer comment. It's not just that. Oh, I shouldn't have got into this. You fully responded.
Oh, did I?
Oh my god. You think that? Wow. Okay. You continue. Or, maybe consider the possibility that we just had different opinion to you. You then continue further. I can't even fathom how arrogant a person would have to be to think their opinion was somehow fact, and what they and that they are only possible that their only possible explanation for someone feeling very differently was for ... clicks, and not just because we actually felt that way. Then you continue. Even more baffling, the comment itself admits the opposite is the popular opinion, undermining the crux of the already flawed argument. YouTube comments are fascinating sometimes.
That comment would have been better if I'd just kept it at the beginning, to be honest. In hindsight,
I think so. I think so. I think the first answer the first sentence is sort of a nice degree of sass and humour.
Yeah, that makes the same point that I then make in 1,000 more less needed words. That's funny. Dan from however many years ago was a sassy bitch.
I think you were angry that day, Dan. The sea was angry that day, my friends.
Yeah, that totally feels like a shift from where I am these days. I feel like I can't even muster up enough anger to write a message like that to someone these days. Do you know what I mean? Like I
don't even think now you'd respond, quite frankly.
No, I could see myself potentially, if I was feeling a bit cheeky and a bit sassy, sending the first part. Again, I could still see myself doing that if I really felt like the comment was being dumb. But, like, the idea of writing all that out now to anyone would be, unlikely.
Yeah. Well, there we go. We've done some reviewing of our... There you go. See, that shows. You know, we as is proven, we can change our minds. So again, celebrities, audience, we're willing to change our mind.
Yep. Thoroughly agree. We were so close to being done in an hour and 20 minutes, which, considering how many tangents we'd done, I was really pleased with. We've now added an extra 6 minutes, so I am going to end it here. Thank you everyone for listening. Now we're 10 minutes over our usual time. We very much thank you all for sticking with us. That's everything for this week. I'm just going to wrap it up there. Because I was about to start going into you can get us in all these places, but we've done that bit. So I'm just going to say, I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And we'll see you in a week's time when we sit down to review The Battle of Zaofu.